Hey y'all, Irix Guy here, and a lot of people have been pondering the size difference between the 13-inch MacBook Air and the brand new 2015 MacBook. And as you can see here, the 13-inch, just in a just looking at it from the top, it's significantly larger. When you look at the, and we're going to hold them up here, so the back of it, you can see that's pretty thick compared to the 2015 MacBook, well, just the MacBook. The sides of them, and then the front, I mean, that's almost a razor. I mean, not literally a razor's edge, but I mean, just look. Now there are a few things as far as, and I've been using the MacBook Air for a couple of years. It's a great computer, and it definitely felt light. So it's funny to transition from something that felt so light. Now when I pick up the MacBook Air, it just feels really heavy and it feels bulky. Now to get this size down, you do have a few compromises. You've got, and I wouldn't call it a compromise in a negative way, but you've got one port here which is your USB-C. And at the time of the 2015 MacBook release, there's obviously not a lot of USB-C devices because it's a new technology, but it's where everything's probably heading. But the good news is you can get, and check the link within this video's description, you can find the MacBook and these cables that I'm about to mention, but there's some really good third-party cables. I got one that goes USB-C to USB 3.0. So basically the result is that it enables your MacBook to have a USB 3 port. And then I've also got another cable that is USB-C to standard USB, like you would use to charge an iPhone or an iPad. So you can plug it into to a USB wall power jack or into a desktop computer's USB port to charge your MacBook. And that's one of the advantages, from my perspective, of the MacBook over the MacBook Air. Now you are sacrificing speed. It's not a slow computer by any means, but you're getting more processing power out of the MacBook Air. You're getting a lot better display. Even though it's a smaller display, it's still plenty big in my opinion. You get a Retina display in this. In the 13-inch MacBook Air right here, you do not get a Retina display. It does have a headphone jack. That's the only other jack aside from the USB-C. So it's definitely a lightweight and more small computer, and that's for its intended purpose. It's a great thing, and I like how it charges by way of USB, because when I'm off the grid, I can charge this by way of solar panels. If I'm in an airport and I don't have access to a power outlet, I can use a power bank that's in my backpack to charge it, just like I would my iPad or my iPhone. So from a portability perspective, it's got a lot of advantages to the MacBook Air, and obviously the other MacBook, the MacBook Pro as well, because you can charge with USB, and that opens up a lot of opportunities. Sure, you are sacrificing processing power, but the way that I would look at this is, if you're in the market for one of these, what are you going to do with it? Is this your secondary computer? If it's your secondary computer, like it is for me, because my primary is iMac with Retina 5K display, this is perfectly great, because it's ultra portable. I can throw it in my backpack with my other camera gear and hit the road running. And I don't have to worry about recharging. I can use solar panels, as I previously mentioned. It opens up a lot of opportunities for the user. Now, if you're looking for a primary computer, honestly, I probably wouldn't even go MacBook Air for a primary computer. If you're going to use it for video editing, photos, etc., I would probably step up to the MacBook Pro, unless you're going to go desktop, which would be, the iMac. So the MacBook Air, at this point in time, kind of has a weird place within the Apple ecosystem, because it's not powerful enough to be a MacBook Pro, and it's not small enough to to be able to compete with this, and it doesn't. Well, none of the other computers have the USB charging, so that's, this is revolutionary from that perspective. Will we see a future MacBook Air that embraces some of the new technologies that this MacBook ushered in? My assumption would be we likely will. Will we see a MacBook Air shrink to the size of the MacBook? Probably not, because I would imagine that they probably wouldn't want to take out the USB ports, because in the MacBook Air you've got your MagSafe charger. Now that's one thing I wanted to comment about. Even though this charges by way of USB-C, whereas the MagSafe, if you kicked it or whatever inadvertently, there was less likelihood that it would fall off your table because the power cable would come out. When you're dealing with the MacBook, since it's USB-C, it's inserted, so it's a somewhat firm connection to the computer. So if you kicked it, there's a good possibility that that it would possibly knock it off of your desk. So that was an advantage from a design perspective. I really like the MagSafe. You get a USB port here, you get a headphone jack there, and then when you flip to the other side of the MacBook Air, you've got an SD card slot. That's something that I miss from the MacBook, but the good thing is, like I said, that little adapter I've got within this video's description, it's very small, converts USB-C to USB 3, and you can plug in your USB SD card reader. So it's something else to throw in the bag, but it's small and lightweight, and definitely throwing that extra thing in the bag is a lot lighter than having to carry the MacBook Air. Also on the MacBook Air, you did have the second USB 3 port. You had one on each side, and then you had the Thunderbolt. So that's something you don't have. You don't have a Thunderbolt port. So another reason, if you are a power user and it's your primary computer, I would not go MacBook, because you're going to want that Thunderbolt for your high-speed data storage drives, for your videos and your photos, and you're also going to want it if you want to connect extra displays. So, think of the MacBook, and this is just my personal opinion. Don't take it for granted. Think of the MacBook as a secondary computer, or a computer if you're not a power user, you don't plan to do extensive video editing. This will handle video editing. I have Final Cut Pro installed on here. It does really well, but it's not a speed demon. I mean, it's not going to it's not going to provide you with exceptional export times, etc. I mean, it's not really made for that. But for web browsing, it's not made for that, but it will do that. So for travel, it's perfect. But for photos, to import photos to your Photos app, if you're storing in iCloud, it's great. Obviously this has 256 gigs of internal storage. My MacBook Air has 128. But you obviously could get it with more if you wanted to. So and there are more color options. I know that doesn't really matter to a lot of people, but to be frank with you, when I was looking at these, and I was looking online, obviously there was a gold. This is the Space Gray 2015 MacBook. And then there was one that was this color, I guess just the plain aluminum color. But I think the Space Gray looks slick. It's almost got a black color to it. Perspective, I think it's pretty much the same from a form factor perspective. But yeah, the display on this, and that was one thing I was worried. As I had mentioned, the primary reason I adopted the MacBook, well, number one, it was Apple out there with their launch event and pumping it up and making me feel like I need it. But I did a deep dive and I said, do I really need that? And I decided that I did, and it's based upon the smaller size, the ability to charge by way of USB, so it's an off-the-grid computer for me. So that's definitely a perk. And I get Retina display, so I'm getting a better display to look at when I'm not doing power video editing. I'm away from the office and I'm doing some stuff on the road. It's perfect size for that. But I mean, it's incredible to see what all this brought to the table, and a lot of people have written off the MacBook as the 2015 MacBook is an overpriced and underpowered system. But you've got to think about what advantages you have. This does not have any fans in it. The MacBook Air does. So this doesn't have any fans for cooling. I mean, that's part of the reasons why the processing power is not as zippy as the MacBook Air. but again, it's still sufficient. It's going to run your apps. It's not like you're going to get this and you're going to be sitting there watching the little beach ball spinning around. I mean, it's not like that. It's fast, but it's just when you're dealing with CPU intensive applications like Final Cut Pro, etc., you're going to notice. And obviously, a MacBook Air is not optimal for Final Cut Pro either, but it'll do it, and it'll do it well. But when you're running processor intensive apps like those, that's when you're going to notice advantages for the from the MacBook Air, and then the more powerful MacBook Pro rather. So it's good for what it is. Do I regret the purchase decision? Absolutely not, because I do like the smaller form factor, and I do think it's a signal of even greater things to come from an Apple laptop design perspective. And